people post, I need to know this, and then one comes, oh, obviously I've tried it, we don't institution, we use this. So it's really, that's what I was.
It's mostly UK people, right?
Yeah,
or
there's lots of Australians now.
Oh, is there?
Lots of Australians, and this year, well, last year, September, lots of Canadians. So I thought it was quite interesting. We'll just go to the common.
You got it done. Maybe can I save it now?
Sure.
Okay. Good. Changing anything, or are you ready? Can I save it as a new name?
Yeah.
At least it's not in Finnish anymore. I was trying to read Finnish. Okay, I'm going to call it updated. That's going to be the file then. And I'll save it on my flash memory stick and send it to you so you have a copy of the final version. How's that sound?
Sure. You are really expert at all this. This is like all the presentation.
I do it a lot. I do it a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, there's been outside the door actually. I did say there was less, but there is. Just not where we are.
Okay. The final version just says updated. The one you want to post here, it'll just say Bonkly updated.
So you want to get it up? Oh, hang on.
It's on. We have it up. I mean, do you want to put it up on the web? You're saying? Can you put that up there?
No, I was going to suggest let's power up this. Please touch the screen.
Oh, we have to.
So,
Yes.
and it's the PC.
Yes, you're right.
And it's going to power up, and then you can just open it up and go in the usual way.
Yeah, it's up. We have it at the top. It's ready. Yeah.
So
we just have to hit the machine up.
Yeah.
Okay.
While that's doing that, I'm going to begin to gather people up.
Yeah. As you know, the best times are after lunch, but sometimes not. I'll wake them up. I'll give you the clicker whilst you're standing right there. I'm going to stand up. Yeah. Oh, no. You should be able to walk in the audience and go in. Let's try it.
While you're presenting, am I sitting in the front?
Yes.
You're up.
Should be overrunning.
And there you
Yes, 5 minutes.
She said 2 minutes.
And
You want to practice? You want to try this? You want to try it?
yeah, okay.
You want to try it? Just hit forward and backwards.
Now I don't know whether you like to see the people.
And this
you're
is a laser
talking
pointer here.
Okay.
Okay. And this turns it all off.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Do you want to see what?
Would you prefer full light on everyone, or this is medium at the moment?
Medium's fine.
Yeah.
I like medium.
And then when it comes to questions, one of us can try and remember to.
Do we need a microphone in this room?
Here is an amplifier, but if you're going to be recorded, let me turn this on. And if you're swapping between each other,
Yeah, I'll hand it to her.
yeah, I don't know how much you move around, but you could either keep it on here or go for it. Yeah. So now you're being recorded.
Is this live? On?
It is on. It's not
All right.
being broadcast, it's just being recorded.
Okay. We're at 10:02.
answer questions.
So we've got our timer set for 20,
Okay, brilliant.
right, like that. So if we get started, we're all set. Okay. Remember, after we're done, the other rooms, and we'll come back here for the final one. The other room has the 3 breakouts. This room has a workshop, which, you know.
We have about 2 pairs of spectacles. So they're just on the front here. And we'll, if no one places them, we'll put them in the pocket.
I think it would be best to have you. Well, you'll be able to see better from over there, actually.
I don't want to, I don't
Or you could sit in the front row, too.
There's still a few people mingling.
Is there anyone sitting there?
Yeah, I'm going to sit there.
Okay. So why don't you just take that one, I think, that's probably best.
And then I'll come up at the end and just ask do the question thing.
And I'll hand you the microphone. I have the microphone. I'll hand you the microphone.
Okay. Oh, I don't need a microphone.
They're recording it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Right.
You're right, no, you don't.
Yeah.
They can hear you. Yes.
I think it's better for me to sit sitting there. Yeah, okay.
And that way you can cue me better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you everyone for coming back on time. We're very pleased to be able to introduce you to Curtis, Bonk and Mimi Lee, who are going to be doing their talk. They're talking about stepping into life change, a new measure of the impact of MOOCs and open education.
You got your water there. You want a cup? Good afternoon. Wow, I didn't even say it twice. Usually I have to say it twice. As you notice, my voice is going on me a little bit here. I flew in from Finland this morning. I was presenting there at this time yesterday in Tampere, and woke up at 3 a.m. to take a bus to come join you. So actually I didn't wake up, I didn't go to bed. So my colleague Mimi Lee and I are going to talk about MOOCs and open education and some of the research we've been doing. I've got my timer set at 20 minutes, so at the end of 20 minutes we're going to give away seven books of my new book called Adding Some Tech Variety, which all of you can get for free. If you go to techvariety.com, you can download the new book for free with no H in tech. I've made it a free book and so forth. Mimi and I are working on a book on MOOCs and open education, and Amy is in the audience somewhere here. She's writing a chapter for us with Rutledge. So we don't have the chapters in yet, or we talk about that. We're going to talk about life change here in this particular talk. And hopefully we'll have some inspiring questions from all of you, and you get a free book if you one of these paper ones. And so we should probably get started since it's down to 19 minutes here. So stepping into life change. Not stepping into quicksand or doggy-doo, or stepping into life change, a new measure of the impact of MOOCs and open education. And you see some of the people here from India, Netherlands, and Spain taking a MOOC from UPenn, and Professor Peter Struck teaching 50,000 students around the world in mythology. And, you know, that's actually where your son, I think, goes to school at UPenn. It's one of the leaders in the field, in the U.S. anyhow. Audience poll. How many of you remember what you were doing when 9/11 happened? How many remember 4/11? One of you. Fred does. What's happening in 4/11?
2 days before my granddad was.
Oh, wow. Okay. On April 4th, 2001, Charles Vest announced that education should be free. I sent him my resume that night. I spoofed it up, sent it off to him, spiced it up, I should say. He never returned my call, never returned the email. I don't know why. But I was interested in this phenomenon back in 2001. We were lucky, and Mimi and I, in collecting data from MIT. So we're going to give you some data and show what people are doing with MIT OpenCourseWare since that time, as well as taking a MOOC. I did the first MOOC with Blackboard on teaching online, and we analyzed some of that data as well. But Charles Vest said, hey, this is bigger than MIT. You all should be jumping in on this. This is a unique phenomenon, and these are unique times. And so he's trying to look at how can we raise the quality of learning and education. My second question here, it said polling question 1 earlier. This is another polling question 1, should say 2. Has learning technology ever transformed your life? Raise your hand. How about in the past year? Okay. Changed my life. I was a board CPA and corporate controller, but I escaped the cube farms. This was my first computer, by the way. That was a laptop computer, mobile, weighed 40 pounds, US pounds. Flash zip, the floppy disk held 48K of memory. That's it. $2,500. My boss said, what would someone need a personal computer for? But that's another story. We were true blue IBM mainframe all the way. And we went under after I went off to grad school. But I escaped the Q farms through TV and correspondence. I know TV and correspondence wasn't as good as face-to-face for me, but it changed my life. And I think some of us are looking at, is MOOCs better than face-to-face or not, or people are dropping out, but lives are changing despite whatever we're calling dropouts within all that. So let's fast forward 25 years, and today, as Fred, someone said he had a copy of my World is Open book. In that book, I point out anyone can learn anything from anyone else at any time. And the kids today have technology wrapped all around them, as you can see there. Different technologies. We do, too. Everybody on the plane with me today was checking things immediately as we got off. The old technology, prehistoric Googling. Some of you remember that, right? Raise your hands. You're certifiably old. Okay. New technologies that enable us to access, filter, share information. The world's become more visual, more collaborative, more open, more online, more blended, more ubiquitous, more comfortable. Learning's changing in many ways. And we're going to talk about open. Whether we're talking about 80-year-old gentlemen getting their degree finally, or women in the rainforest in wheelchairs learning online from the University of the People. This guy's learning from Western Governors University. This yak herder from Tibet learning from Open Yale. Life's changing for many people out there. The press tends to ignore that. The press doesn't talk about life change at all. They're only looking at one simple number that doesn't really mean a whole lot. Now, what's happening? I'm going to give you some current news. My friend Chuck Severance is doing a MOOC right now on programming for everyone, trying to get high school teachers to learn how to program. This guy's the guy with the open source tattoo who built Sakai, if you've heard of Sakai Foundation. He traveled to Barcelona, met his students, traveled to Seoul, Korea, met his students, traveled to Manila, Melbourne. He travels the world meeting his students. University of London has a course on research methods right now. June 18th, announcement from Oregon State. We're going to offer a PD MOOC for teachers. I think MOOCs, particular professional development MOOCs, theory-driven MOOCs, remedial MOOCs, make a lot of sense. Teachers don't have to come on campus then for this, or dentists, or doctors, or whatever. In fact, June 17th, there was an announcement that I got an email anyhow announcing a website called oedb.org. It's an open education database. And they were trying to index MOOCs, and I wrote to them, it's a voluntary base. This is not a corporate or a company doing this. They've been working on this for a number of years, creating exploring open courses, free, whether it's free art classes, humanities classes, biology classes, or whatever. Of course, the Saylor Foundation's doing this too out of DC. This woman here is taking a short MOOC. There's a couple of Russian entrepreneurs creating a new company that's trying to challenge traditional instruction by creating short, pithy kinds of MOOCs. Whether that's going to take off or not, I'm not quite sure. That was May 5th, 2014. And I'm missing the name of the company, unfortunately. And maybe somebody can help me out and look that up. October 31st, 2013, Sir John Daniels says, let's make an open education resource university where you can sign up for any class you want, but if you want course credit, if you want certificates, then you pay. So it's a pay for the, there's a lot of business models here. As a former accountant, I've come up with 15 business models for MOOCs. I'm not going to go through all 15, but one of them is to pay for certificates, pay for the assessments. And I'm at about 2 minutes left before I switch over to Mimi here. In Rwanda, they have a set of MOOCs up online, or they're repurposing MOOCs to get kids hybrid programs. So in Rwanda, they're taking open education courses, contents, and creating courses out of them. But there are problems, many problems, despite all the hype, despite all the positive successes, despite all the life change. We hear about the University of Edinburgh, and we hear about Duke University, we hear about MIT and Harvard, and the dropout rates, but not everyone's there to finish the course. They're there to learn a little bit, to learn to find out what online learning's like. We hear about lack of engagement. Well, not everybody's there actually to take that course. They just thought they might browse it like being in a library. I think MOOCs are more like being exposed to a library than being in a course. If we never look at how many people finish reading the book or that they opened up. And we don't give that, the media never reports that kind of thing. But we do open up minds when they open up books. We open up minds, we open up doors. We give people possibilities for life change. There's some data showing that, yes, a majority of men, young people with a bachelor's degree are the majority taking MOOCs. People already coming in with degrees. This little infographic statistic came out about a month and a half ago. So that's a problem. Another problem is the issue of impact. Where are we impacting? Are we impacting just people in North America and the UK? Are we offering, are we impacting people, in particular, if you look at this slide, the percent of people having degrees already taking courses in North Africa is pretty large. We're not getting, people in parts of the world that we would like to get exposure to taking these MOOCs, so the impact issues. We're not impacting the underprivileged. 2/3 of people taking Coursera courses are coming from the developed world, not the undeveloped world, or underdeveloped world. Number 5, assessment and credentialing issues regarding MOOCs. Are we actually going to have some kind of certificate or course credit or a program degree or something else, or badges or something like that? So issues of assessment and credentialing are also pervasive. Lack of feedback. Coursera is forming learning hubs to meet with other people, chat with other people, whether you're living in Kenya or Argentina or Venezuela or other parts of the world. You have a learning hub to come meet other folks in New York City or in London here. And localization of content. Coursera just announced that they're going to have a set of people localize contents. Now, we studied, Mimi and I, a long time ago, studied the OOPS project out of Taiwan, where they were translating MIT contents free to the world in Chinese. But Coursera just picked up on this notion. There are for-profit taking advantage of people volunteering their time to make Coursera a more profitable company. Think about that. So that's a big issue. This guy from Korea says we need more OC MOOCs, one culture MOOCs. So we have all Koreans around the world, all expats around the world, taking content that's not in English or dominated in English, but in Korean. He also said we need human MOOCs, HMOOCs, but I'm not sure what he means by that. And we need to stop having the government shut down the MOOCs for people in Syria. One day you talk about a guy in Syria whose life changed through MOOCs, and the next day the US government shuts down the spigot and doesn't allow courses going to Cuba, Iran, Syria, and so forth. So there's some serious issues around all these MOOCs. This guy did get access to it eventually. There was a lot of hoopla about that. But on the other hand, there's life change. There's people at Wellesley College, this guy in particular, who has a MOOC. He says, in my MOOC on Alexander the Great, students are inspired. Their lives are being changed. There's inspiration, passion, love of learning. We hear about Starbucks offering online courses. There's a lot of people serving you coffee at Starbucks whose lives are going to be changed, as the announcement last week, for free online education. And finally, this woman here in Afghanistan was announced last week that she's going to fly to the US to headline a conference for corporate trainers. And she's been learning online through digital education. And Elliot Mazie and the Mazie Institute decided to have her be the keynote of the conference, talking about how her life was changed and inspired. The Gates Foundation is doing research around MOOCs, having the researchers do short little videos of what their research says. I think we need student, learner, participant videos about how their lives are changing. Anyways, we studied MIT OpenCourseWare, as I mentioned earlier. MIT OpenCourseWare is used around the world. We had mostly males, over age 40, 50%. We had 1,400 completed surveys. They came from India, China, Brazil, Nigeria, Pakistan. They were mostly curious about the topic, interested in the topic, self-improvement, wanting to learn something, and so forth. More personal control. They're not looking to get a certificate, not looking to get a badge. They were learning science and math and foreign language and culture. They were looking for new skills, bettering their lives, helping society out. Credit bearing was way down the list. So again, the media is hyping this side, but people are looking to change society. They want to learn something new, want freedom, and so forth. Personal freedom. Carl Rogers, freedom to learn in psychology. Fun, fantasy, choice, adventure. This is all in the new book. This is a book on motivation and retention online with 10 principles of motivation. This comes out in OpenCourseWare. This comes out in MOOCs, why people are involved in them. So Mimi's going to talk a bit about the qualitative side of things here and then switch it back to me at the very end. Mm-hmm. I need to give you the microphone.
Okay, so I was invited to conduct an analysis on the qualitative data of the MIT OpenCourseWare study that Curt just has mentioned. Out of 43 item survey, there were 25 open-ended items. And we received 613 completed responses. So my task was to analyze those 613 responses and see what they are actually saying. So kind of a different focus than what Curt has just mentioned. I'm more interested in how do we interpret the life change, or how do we make sense of what's happening with MOOCs learners. And stepping back a little bit, by training, I'm a qualitative researcher and more of a critical ethnographer. So I'm very interested in more micro level issues. So you can imagine the challenge that I face looking at the survey items, which I don't usually do. I'm doing more, I'm more of an interview and observation person. But the whole idea of MOOCs and finding a way to understand the MOOCs learners in a way that is meaningful for me as a qualitative researcher was interesting enough, so I just took on the challenge. I'm looking at culture and the identity of MOOC learners, and we are using mixed methods with a group of researchers. I'm using the word mixed methods in a loose term. In a way, it's not quantitative and qualitative mixed, but more of qualitative research methods and two methods combined in the analysis. And there are 4 of us who are working. And so what we found out through this overall qualitative analysis about MOOCs learners is that they have strong intrinsic motivation. A lot of people said, this is for my own pleasure. That was focused and mentioned repeatedly. And emphasis on autonomy. Nobody helped me. They said it very proudly. Nobody helped me. I did it on my own. The fact that I didn't have anybody to help me seemed to be a source of pride for these learners. Love for creation and sharing. Membership of community, and in the community with people of similar interests. So this is kind of a general idea of MOOC learners that we've noticed. The challenge with this big data set was that, especially in this term, 43 items and 25 open-ended question items, there were possible overlaps between the open-ended questions, and I was not involved in making those questions. So when I was given the set of data, there were a lot of overlaps. And so there were connected responses across the questions. So out of 25 questions, what we realized is some people don't answer when they say something about, okay, what was the challenge? What did you not like about your experience MOOCs? And they say something like, oh, everything was okay. And so if I look at that person didn't have any problem with, the MOOCs that they took. But along the line, by say, out of 25 questions, by question 23 or 24, when the question asked, okay, do you have any advice or suggestions for future learners in MOOCs? They would have suggestions and advices that are very critical. And so there was a discrepancy between their answer in number 1 when they were asked, do you have any things that you didn't like, which was no. And by item 24, they had all these ideas and advices for people who are planning to take MOOCs. So we've noticed, and I've noticed that looking at these questions by item wouldn't give me a good or meaningful answer. So I've decided to analyze 25 items by participants. So instead of going vertical, we decided to go across and treat each participant and 25 answers by each participant as a short interview. So treating as 76 for short interviews. Actually, there are 605 MIT course answers, and there were Blackboard questions, Blackboard data sets. So out of 764, there are only 605 MIT OpenCourseWare interviews. So the challenge has been that I'm reading just because I don't have anything else to do. All 605 interviews as short interviews, and it's taking a lot of time. And I have read all 605 answers, but it's been painstakingly, tedious work in terms of the speed, but it has been very meaningful because I get to see what people have said about their experiences in a meaningful way. So this is a kind of a short description of another member of the 4 researcher group for us. One decided to use NVivo because she felt like we have to do this quickly. We can't read all 605 questions. So she's doing NVivo analysis. I'm doing manual analysis. So we are going to present the comparison between the same set of data but using 2 different ways of analyzing, which will be very interesting. And we are planning to present it at ARA next year. So the reason that we are doing this is importance of understanding complexities behind individual experiences and challenges with big data and need for multiple perspectives and methods in data analysis. So some of the findings that we have, at least I was able to come up with from my manual analysis, is the need to understand heterogeneity of MOOCs participants and complexity behind their motives for participation. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. So for example, when you read their responses, it's clear that there are shared values. For example, some common shared values are sense of purpose, importance of control, pride as a self-motivated autonomous learner. But there are very diverse ways of pursuing these values that seem very shared. So that is what I mean by heterogeneity and complexity behind the data. So the diverse ways of pursuing the values are manifested in contradicting ways. So even within the shared values, the way they are manifesting the values are very different, and sometimes are contradicting. For example, about assessment and certifications, people have very different views about assessment and certification. So let me give you an example. So shared values, sense of purpose, importance of control, time and content, pride as self-motivated, learning as fun, sharing knowledge, sense of confidence, empowerment through peer recognition. So these are shared values. So complex manifestation of values, for example, assessment certificates and job improvement. So these are shared. Assessment, certificates, and job improvement, they are important. That's the shared value. But how they are talking about it, if you read it by participant, is there are people who want to do better in their current job. And there are people who want to use MOOCs for changing and getting a new job. And there are people who are doing MOOCs for job-related in a way that they are seeking promotion within the job. So they will all show up as they are taking MOOCs to improve their job. But as you can see, depending where they are, their ideas and perspectives or thoughts about assessment certificates are very different. So for example, people who want to do better in their current job want the freedom to choose with no evaluation nor certificates. They just want to they want to take MOOCs and be able to do a little bit better in their current job. The fact that there is no evaluation nor certificate, it's an attraction for them. If they want to change the job through their experience in MOOCs, use skills on one's own time and pace with some form of assessment. So they want to take their work in MOOCs, go to a new job and say, hey, there's a certificate that I've taken all these courses from Stanford, Harvard. So this will put me more competitive in the job. Seeking promotion within the job, preference for assessment certificates that could be legitimately recognized by the employer. So they don't care about just the assessment, just certificates, as long as they have something that can take to their boss and say, I've taken this, and can you recognize my work in this? That would be the important issue. More examples, valuing freedom to choose, but also wanting more evaluation structure to help make that choice. And also, a lot of people ask for formal support in the informal learning environment. and learning just for the sake of learning, but they want their peer recognition about that. Okay, I have to stop at this point. I think I've gone over a minute or two, and some implications and moving forward, which we can talk about in our Q&A session. Thank you.
Just so you know, that if you get the slides, there are some examples of life change built within, people at different age groups and that are lives are being changed through the MOOCs, and they're going back to grad school, they're getting new jobs. Thank you. They're getting new jobs, they're going back to grad school, and so forth and so on. And getting new incomes, starting a new business, retiring and starting a new business. So that's kind of the theme in here, using the skills that they're learning online when they're ordering information at a restaurant and so forth. And by the way, Charles Vest has now passed away, just as a little aside on there. So we have 5 minutes left, I think, for Q&A. Yeah, just if you want to get the papers, we've written 2 papers up on this. I'm happy to just send me an email. They're in review related to some of this data of life change, but quite a varied from teens all the way up to people in their 70s and 80s. We've got some interesting quotes and phenomena. So
thank you very much, Curtis. Thank you.
Yep.
Has anyone any questions?
Yep.
Obviously, you've done your research. I wondered what you thought the important research questions we should be asking about MOOCs now.
You want to try start with that one? What questions should we be answering now or asking now?
For me, I'm biased as a critical researcher. I guess I am excited about MOOCs, but at the same time, I'm not. Let me just say, I probably would not offer a MOOC myself because I really like the intimate setting of the courses I'm teaching. I really value one-to-one face or virtual interaction with my doctoral students. So the idea of MOOCs for me is very, very daunting, and it's not me. But I also embrace the whole idea of MOOCs as a next big. Not next, it's a big thing now. So I'm very interested in critical questions about something like, who is MOOCs really serving, and who is marginalized and marginalized by this whole idea of MOOCs. For example, in San Diego State University in the States, the professors are really critical about this issue of MOOCs, and their administrators trying to take the MOOCs as a way to, for the lack of better words, replace a lot of associate instructors. So if they take MOOCs, they literally, if they implement MOOCs from Harvard or Stanford for their students, for especially freshman engineering science classes, they can save a lot of money instead of hiring a lot of associate instructors who are teaching those courses. So those are the issues that are really kind of, for me, important but a kind of dark side of MOOCs. So who are we serving and marginalizing through the implementation of MOOCs is something that I would be interested in.
Yeah, other question, yeah.
You talked about this by listing lots of stuff that's happened recently and stuff that's
Yep.
happening quickly. I just
Yep.
wonder what you think the most helpful and maybe the most unhelpful thing that have happened recently is. What's making this better and what's happening that's making it worse? If you just pick one.
Yeah, I think the attention paid to translation is something important, and something we should be, all, in fact, researching intercultural awareness issues, language translation, the tools that are out there for language. That would be something that actually we should be looking at, going back to the earlier question. I think also the tools from the Stanford Venture Lab enable more collaboration than some of the other ones, looking at cross-cultural collaboration across these. To answer, again, the first question, that would be another research area that we should investigate. And I forget the other half of your question was what?
Is there something really unhelpful that's
unhelpful that's happening. I think being reactionary to things like plagiarism and all of a sudden having an honor code. I think we're way too reactionary to things and not thinking ahead about the impact of some of these. So there's consistent new announcements, whether we're firing presidents at Virginia and then rethinking that. Just people are knee-jerk reactions to all this and jumping in, not having thoughtful plans. But we know that's the case. Yeah.
One more. Okay, one more question.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned that engagement is a major challenge for most of the MOOCs.
Yeah.
Because I believe MOOCs are relying currently on video or PowerPoint or slides, PDFs. What kind of innovative engagement methods you have seen or you visualize that would evolve for MOOCs?
Say the last half again. What kind of?
What kind of other engaging technologies do you visualize or engaging methods that will evolve for MOOCs, or if you have seen some other than the traditional?
Yeah, I think the people at Harvard have done a nice job of responding to the PR that's been out there about engagement, and I think they're coming up with new, and in fact they've released their data, much of their data, and scrubbed the data without names, so we all can all be analyzing it, but they're trying to look at, mine this data for not just completion, but actually what are the activities that they're engaged in, which are the activities they're selecting and why, and the routes in which people are going through that data. That's more important, I think. I'm going to let Mimi try and we'll end here. You have an engagement answer on that?
Sure. I think depending on what kind of course offering platforms they can use, they have different levels of engagement they are allowed to do. So first, something like Coursera, I think they have very tailored platform for their clienteles like Stanford and Harvard. So different kinds of levels of engagements are possible based on what kind of platforms you are afforded.
And I just want to say thank you for allowing us to come in here as Americans into this event. And there's been 3 people who have been helpful to me since I've walked in the room, and I just want to give them the last 3 of the, I'll have 1 more left, but here you go. And of course, Fred's winking at me there, and he would like one. So I have 1 more left to the first person that comes up with a question during break time or later on. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And now we are, we're switching now, so there's the workshop in here.
The gentleman with the glasses had his hand up. You had your hand up? Yeah. You had your hand up? You had your hand up? Or was it him? Which guy was it? That guy?
He's like looking down. That's okay.
Oh, he's way up there? Okay. All right. Okay. It's okay?
I don't know if you had a chance to find a case out for doing that site, but if you wanted to use those tables, I know neither places can do, but or get people, I don't know, to perch on that.
Yeah,
Shall I leave it to you? I can't remember who's chairing this one. But this is the happening they've had.
I've been sent down, Curt.
You were the one with the question?
I was on the question, yeah. I could.
Clive, I'm
Thank you.
sorry, it has to be you that I cut short.
No, that's right. Thank you very
Feeling
much.
like I need to
What
be
was your
quite
question?
really-
About community. One of the things today has been about the community. I just wonder what your thoughts were about that.
And there's another session.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to have to do that. And maybe pick that up outside. Because there's something that's I've taken away today which I didn't expect. So I'm going to see you next.
Okay.
So I'll catch you outside.
All right.
I'm sorry, I'm being so brutal.